What's the vibe check? I hate that term. Such a silly, silly, silly thing. Um, well, welcome. My name is Matt Williams. I have a channel. Well, I guess you're watching the channel, so you know what the channel is. It's Techno Evangelist. I've been making videos for a while, um, mostly focused on Olama recently. Recently, I mean in the last year and a bit, year and 3 months. Before that, if you came to my channel, well, let's see, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it would have been about travel routers, and it got really big with the RV crowd, recreational vehicle crowd. I think I've disappointed all of them in the years since. And if you came to my channel, I think I started this channel 17 years ago. I didn't really take it seriously for, well, up until about a year ago. And back then, I think my first video was about write facts because I worked for a company called Capteris, which then got acquired by OpenText. And yeah, so it's been a long process. But really the most of the videos that I've made have all been in the last year, and most of the subscribers I've gotten have all been in the last year, going from about 4,000 to I think I'm now at about 62 or 63,000. So climbing, climbing, climbing. All right. Well, hey, welcome LM and Tomcat and Suhas. Thanks for being here. Olama God. Well, I don't know about Olama God, but okay. Sure, I'll take it. It looks like I'm wearing the uniform I used to wear all the time well, especially I used to go to a conference called reInvent every year. It always happened the week after Thanksgiving. Terrible time for family stuff. But but I used to work at a company called Datadog, and so this was kind of my uniform, uh, being at a conference. And oh, sounds like the garage door is opening. Um, but yeah, so this was it feels weird being in a reInvent jacket again, and all that. So hello, Mike. Thanks for being here. So yeah, in this video, in the last, I guess over the last few weeks, I've done a few looks at different models, and it definitely gets some comments. Some people is like, "Oh, you're an idiot for choosing these questions." I've, I've, I've spent a while picking out the right questions, and although now I think maybe I don't have, I wanted to, be able to assess different models based on a few questions, and uh, and you really try to understand the most I can with the fewest things. Um, Thinking that all models are going to do bad at some of them, and so I'd be able to maybe rank on a general ranking about where models sit. And then Gemma came out, and it kind of blows away. Well, I've only looked at really using this framework three other models so far, and they've all been these reasoning models. And yeah, Gemma seems to just obliterate all of them. It's like reasoning is a distraction, a fad, and we can get to the real work with these models like Gemma 3 and others. So I played around with it a little bit, and I really like it. And I thought I'd play around with it a little bit more on the stream. All right. Well, thank you for being here, Alberto Garcia Aroba. Um, Thank you for showing up. This is great. Wow. Oh my goodness. 41 people here. I gotta stop getting excited by the number of people. And especially when it's, for some people, 41 is probably not like a bad day. But for me, 49, oh my God. Gemma 3, I didn't know it dropped. Exciting day. Yes. So uh I think there was a new version of Olama to support whatever. I don't know what they had to change to get it to support. I guess it's a different architecture, and the architectures that are supported are kind of hard coded into Olama. And uh, from Serge Aziz, hello from Abidjan. Where's Abidjan? I don't know what that is. Um, so yeah, Olama had to be updated to get it to work, and so I installed that update on my big server, and it is Gemma 3, 3.2. I don't know. It's whatever is the new one that Google just released in the last day or two. Well, actually, let's go check out what model it is. Olama.ai. And I will put me on the screen with, hopefully that shows up. Yep. Let's close that. And it looks like I'm not taking up the full screen. Okay, there we go. And let's see, models. And it's Gemma 3. What does it say for, I don't know, of a 3 dot something. I just know of a 3. I mean, we're not talking about Llama 3.2 or 3.3. I'm talking about Gemma. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of detail um, in this screen about what's special about Gemma. A lot of it is taken up with benchmarks, which anybody who's watched any of my videos knows my opinion on benchmarks, and it's like they're garbage. There's no, you really have to test it yourself, and that's what I try to do myself. And it's, my testing is just for me, and I share it with others so you can see what I think of it. But really, you should be testing this yourself and coming up with some sort of, I don't know, framework or some sort of system for being able to test these models yourself. But it's a collection of 4 models, 4 different parameter sizes, a 1B parameter, or 1B, 1 billion parameter model, um, and that has a 32K context window, and it's just text. Then there's multimodal models, 4B, 12B, and 27B, each with 128K context window. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's make sure I've got this. Okay. Um, and yeah, they're benchmarks. Yeah, whatever. Okay. So what I like to do, which one am I going to try? I'm going to try 27B. So I was pretty impressed with other models like DeepSeek. I've been using DeepSeek R1, the full 671 billion parameter model, because as if you've seen any of my videos recently, I've access to a gargantuan box. Is that the right way of using that word? I don't know. An enormous box that has 8 H100s with 80 gigs of VRAM each, which is just spectacular to be able to use something like that. Um, and so I've been playing around with that machine, and so that's what I'm going to be using here today. Misty is not supporting 5.4 Mini and Gemma 3. Yeah, it does. Works fine. I don't know about 5.4, but Gemma 3 totally works fine. I was using it earlier. Let's see, do I have Misty on this box? I don't have Misty on this box. Well, I might install it later on. If you're still here towards the, after an hour or so, or whenever we finish the basic, how would I compare Gemma 3 versus R1? So DeepSeek R1 and R1 1776, I would say are about equal. The only difference being around censorship of government topics, or topics that a government wants to suppress. Or that's not really, I don't know what the right way of saying that is. But it will suppress some content and then push additional content about China's role in black hole research or other science topics or math topics into the answer. But performance, I would say, is about equal for R17076, which is Perplexity's fine tune, and DeepSeek R1, which is the original. Open Thinker, I think I wouldn't say it's anywhere near as good. Hmm. What did I do with Open Thinker? Let me take a look at the models. Open Thinker, it's not one of the more popular ones. Open Thinker was a 32 billion. So 32B versus that 671 billion parameter, 1776 and DeepSeek. I I don't know if they can compare. Oh, well, that's what I would have thought until Gemma 3 came along. Um, so for Akshay, let me come back to that. Versus Llama latest. I don't know what I mean, Llama 3 hasn't really been. I mean, it's a while back now. I mean, how far back is Llama? It's a few months now. 3 months ago. So, oh yeah, I wish I had a Mac Studio M3 Ultra. Don't have enough. The uh, When I finally make more money on this channel than I would make making French fries at McDonald's in a month, uh, then maybe I'll get a Mac Studio M3 Ultra. Until then, yeah, I'm kind of screwed. Um, so Misty. So the problem with Misty, if you're running the built-in Olama, so Misty embeds Olama, which is good and bad. It means that they have to, if there's a new version of Olama, they need to release a new version of Misty to handle that new version of Olama. Otherwise, you can point to a remote host, which could be your local host, but you need to have Olama installed on that local host, and having Misty point to that local machine. Or you're going to have Olama installed on any other box that you have access. And as long as the server or the machine running Misty has network access to that box and can actually access that port that Olama is running on, then you can run it that way. And so if you have Olama 060 on that local machine or the remote machine, and you've set up the remote connection, remote server or something like that in Misty to point to that, then it will use 060 and then it will just work. Yeah, but you need to go into Misty. Let's see, I don't have it installed on this machine. Let's see if we have, so when you open up Misty, you have a screen that looks kind of like this. You go to this icon and you click on that, and you add a remote server, and down a list towards the bottom is Olama, and you click on that, and then you can point to the HTTP:// hostname port 11434, and you'll be able to connect, and then you update the models that you have access to, and then you'll be able to connect to that. Hopefully that makes sense. But anyway, let's get into, greetings from the Netherlands. Hello. What should I say there? Goedemiddag. Middag? It's been a while since I've been in the Netherlands. My pronunciation was always terrible. In fact, before I moved to Amsterdam, actually before I moved to the Netherlands 20 years ago, I asked one of my mother's friends had grown up in the Netherlands, and I was curious about this company I was going to go work for, and the city it was in, what was it like, and I said, well, I'm the company is in a city called Vianen, something like that, Vianen. And she's like, I don't know that name. I don't. Vianen? I know. I don't. Huh? Whereabouts is that town? And I'm looking on a map, and I tell her exactly where it is. Oh, Vianen. I'm pretty sure that's what I said, but maybe not. That's the town I grew up in. So she didn't even recognize my pronunciation of her hometown. So yeah, my pronunciation is often terrible. Even though I lived in the Netherlands for about 10 years. And I worked for a company that was in Vianen. It was called Capteris. We got acquired by OpenText. And so my office was in Hoofddorp. But the whole time I was living in Amsterdam. It was great. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. All right, so I have this tool called, what did I call it? Model grade collector. I don't know. I'm not the best at names, but let's see. If I go to this page, I'll zoom in just a little bit. And so I am connected to a server I've called Big Boy, and I've got Gemma 3 27B instruction fine-tuned FP16 loaded up. And I ask a bunch of questions and I just see how it performs and then I give it a score. And I thought I'd just, and that's what I've been doing in the recent set of videos. I thought I'd just kind of do it here as well. So without using the letter E, write a three sentence story about a cat chasing a mouse. Now, the first time you load up the model, it can take a while. And it's been over half hours. I think I had a timeout of about 30 minutes. And so it's going to take a little bit of time to load up that model. That's one benefit of being on a Mac is that models load up pretty quickly. On NVIDIA, it's that's definitely the pain point is having to load up the model into VRAM. So it's just going to sit here for a while we load up the model and then we can start answering it. Let's see, some other questions. I've tried Gemma 3 12B and it's have multimodal, 12B, 4B, 12B, and 27B have multimodal capability. I tend to use Ollama, and Ollama is, I wouldn't say it's broken, but it's got a feature. So every multimodal model so far has really only accepted a single image at a time. And one thing that's interesting about Gemma 3 is it supports multiple images. And the API was written, the API was written to accept multiple images, but it just ignored them. But for some reason right now, if you send it multiple images, it says you can only use one image at a time. Oh, looks like it came across. So, and so it's broken right now. I put in an issue on the JavaScript library because I thought it was that. And I spoke to Bruce earlier this morning about it. And oh, good, it worked with Ollama Remote. Perfect. So I spoke with Bruce about it, and he says, "Oh yeah, let me look real quick, see if it's something that's easily solved." And it turns out that's a problem in Ollama itself. And so hopefully we'll see a patch to that or a new version come out pretty soon that can support multiple images, because I think that's one of the really cool features of Gemma 3 over other multimodal models. In fact, I saw a demo where it passed it like 4 images. I think it was Sam Vidovine had a video about it, and he had like 4 images and say create a story. This might have actually been one of the sample prompts on wherever Gemma 3 is hosting. I don't know if it's on Hugging Face or something that Google is hosting. But it would create a story using those 4 images in order, which I thought was just awesome. How to have multimodal support for Ollama with tech. Oh, okay, we're back to Misty again. When you've got that list of all the models, and you've kind of selected Gemma 3, whatever, there's a little like a greater than, is it greater than? Less than? Anyway, less than, greater than. Yeah, so angle bracket. Click on that, it expands it out, and you can check video, or no, image. What's one of the 3 checkboxes? Check image, and then the images will be available to that model. Um, yeah, and you'll be able to add images. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so the question that I just passed it was, without using the letter E, write a 3-sentence story about a cat chasing a mouse. A gray cat, sly and quick, saw a tiny brown form dart across a wood floor. It sprung, paws landing softly, pursuing its quarry with a playful grin, a swift dash, a frantic jump. Victory was his. Now, all the other models I've looked at, even DeepSeek R1, 671 billion parameter model, they've all thrown in E's. Actually, I I grit I think I had DeepSeek. I did a video. I must have done a video about DeepSeek, um, and it came up with a 3-sentence story. And I said, "Oh my God, it did it! It's there's no e's except every sentence started with the word the." And I looked at that so many times, and I could not see the word. I could not see the e. So I'm pretty sure I don't see any E's here. So I mean that did a great job. It was also really quick. It's so much quicker than just to come up with. In fact, let's generate another answer now. And so it's spitting out an answer. Oh, it got an E there though. But the second time it got an E in there, one E on crouched. Um, but that's a really quick response. None of the uh, thinking models, even though they went through all this thinking and found things with the letter E in it, but the answer was always wrong. Yeah, you need to upgrade. Yeah, that you just have to upgrade to Olama 060, and if you're running Misty, then you need to point to a remote model, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you're not on, well, you just have to upgrade. Um, yeah, so all those thinking models could not come up with a good answer here. Looks like this one failed this second time. Let's try it one more time. But this is finishing the entire answer before any of those thinking models could, like, they were only maybe a quarter of the way through their thinking, and thinking didn't really seem to help them much. They still answered wrong, which was always very frustrating. I don't think there's an E in that one either. So logical coherence is talking about, okay, for the explanation, is it kind of coming up with, does it make sense as we go through? Are we bouncing around? Now, there is no explanation. So logical coherence, I don't know whether to give it a 0 or nothing because, well, there is no explanation. I guess explanation will come up a little bit. Creativity, yeah, I mean that was a pretty nice story. So I'm gonna give it a 3. Constraint adherence. There's one constraint. It's don't have a letter E in it, and it's done it perfectly. Now, do I include the time where it did include the E and not? Yeah, homebrew. It's always best to install Olama. It's always best to install Olama from the official install. I love homebrew. I've got a video about homebrew that I made, I don't know, 3 years ago because I love homebrew so much. But homebrew is sometimes, for some packages, is not the way to install it. And it's frustrating because the homebrew package is not maintained by the Olama team. It's maintained by somebody else, and they haven't gotten to it yet. So the best way to install Olama is always, especially on a Mac, is to just install the default way. It'll update. It'll tell you when it's time to update, and it's always a better way to go. It's the same thing with like some of the Linux package managers, apt, and others will install and they build from source, and they often break things because the source is not the release, and it's super frustrating. So it's always best for the Olama, not with everything, but with Olama, it's best to install with the default install on that's available on the website. And some people say, oh, it updates better with Homebrew. No, it doesn't. It did for like a week, way at the beginning when the Homebrew package was originally created, but that benefit has gone away completely. Anyway, so um, yeah, the thinking is not actually a thought process. It's just spewing tokens to push the response token possibilities into a reasonable. But then the problem I have, I don't. The problem I have with that thinking, whatever you want to call it, reasoning stage, is that it will often find the right answer in there and still give the wrong answer at the end, which is so frustrating. But anyway, constraint adherence, awesome. Response relevance, totally awesome. Explanation quality, there is no explanation. So I'm going to give it a 0 because there is no explanation. Appropriate length is, God, it's awesome. So we got 12 out of 15 points, and we can move on to the next. If you stack all the playing cards in a standard deck, standard playing card deck. Do I have a standard deck? Here's, I don't think I do. It'd be great to show, kind of demo this in person. But I've done it before, and it comes out to be an octagon. So I click on that, and I say generate response or generate answer. Fun geometry puzzle. So it starts to break down, explaining the process or explaining how you'd figure this out. The shape is basically saying it's an octagon, which is amazing, which is great. And it's done. So this is faster than I typically see with any of the, I mean, the thinking models are still thinking, reasoning, whatever you want to call it. Those models are still like just kind of warming up, just starting with the thinking, and this is done. I've seen one of the models. I think it was the QWQ. In fact, that I keep meaning to release that video. Where is that sitting now? Oh, I just need to record me talking to the camera about it. But I've got it almost all done. And that one, it took like 5 minutes of thinking to come up with the answer. It came up with the right answer, but I'd much rather have like this, where I see the right answer within, 10 seconds versus 5 minutes, 4 minutes to come up with that right answer. So logical coherent, I mean, it all just makes sense. This is perfect. So coherence, great. Logical coherence, response relevance, absolutely. Explanation quality, I thought that was awesome. It all makes total sense. Now, of course, I've read these answers so many times because I keep doing the same tests against different models. So it's a little frustrating. But when you keep looking at the same information over and over again, slightly different versions, it gets a little bit tiring, but it's still good. But this is great. This is great. And appropriate length, I mean, it's fantastic, and it's correct. So it's hard to find any faults with this answer. And so we've got 27 out of 30. Basically, it's just adding up all the possible points I could give it and the actual points I gave it. And then eventually I just divide these numbers, 27 divided by 30, to come up with my overall score of what do I think of a model. This scoring is still not perfect. I really want to incorporate time to the final response, as well as tokens per second. Because if, as like I mentioned before, if a model comes up with the right, 5 models come up with the right answer, but one of them comes up with that right answer in 2 seconds, and another one comes up with it in 4 minutes, I'm going to go with a 2-second one, and I find that just to be a lot better. But for the V he is running, yes, naturally, but for the V I don't understand that. Oh, it depends on the size. Oh, gotcha. Um, yeah, feels like waste of time. Yeah. All right, so let's go back up to if apple is the fruit as hammer is the tool, create a new analogy following this pattern using different concepts. And let's take a look. Okay. Here's an analogy. It's great. Now, again, this is a amazing machine. I feel I need to rem wait, what? uh, I'd say this kind of sucks. Okay, violin is to oh no, oh sorry, I read that wrong. Violin is to, I guess, gaki in Chinese or Japanese. Anyway, is to instrument as galaxy is to universe. Well, that's pretty interesting that it's incorporating use Japanese terms to make it completely. Oh my god, that's really cool. So this is um, saying violin is to the Japanese word for instrument as galaxy is to the Japanese word for universe. Um, and I use Japanese terms to make it completely different and a bit more challenging. That's so cool. Okay, so that's an answer I never would have imagined one of these models coming up with. I think this is so cool. All right, so logical coherence. Yes, it totally makes sense. I love it. Creativity, poof, I wish I could give it a 4. Constraint adherence, there's not really, I mean, I guess there's a constraint. You're coming up with this two comparisons of specific item to broad category. So yeah, it did that great. Response relevance, bang on. Explanation quality, yeah, yeah. I mean, in fact, the explanation helped me understand why it chose what it chose, which I think is really cool. So I'm gonna give it a 3. And appropriate length, this is great. And so often those thinking models, I just have to give it a terrible answer. Can I regenerate? Sure. So I've already scored it, but let's try out another answer. Violin, violin is to instrument as novel is to literature. Yeah, I'd say that's what was the original one? Fruit is to hammer as fruit is apple is to fruit as hammer is to tool. Um, yeah, I'd say that's let's try it again. Let's do another one. It keeps using the violin as to instrument. That's its thing. It's found. Yeah, violin is to instrument. Novel is to literature. Okay, same one. Let's see if it comes up with anything new. Violin is to instrument as galaxy. So it's got 2 examples that it can use, which is interesting. Let's just keep doing it. Poem is to literature as neuron is to biology. Eh, neuron is to neurons a specific is neuron is a specific type of biology. I don't know if I mm, I don't think that's right. But it took us like five five tries. I think it was like 5 tries to get to one where it's like, I don't think so. But I mean, that's if I were doing a more complete assessment, yeah, I would run each, um, generate each answer like 10 times and grade all 10. That's a lot of work. I want to have fun doing this, not make this a horrible job. So neuron is to brain. Yeah, maybe that would be better. Logical coherence. Oh, I've already graded this one. I'm not going to grade it again. Quantum entanglement to a 5-year-old using only items in a typical kitchen. So one of the models I gave this to said, imagine you have like a gumball in one bucket and a gumball in another, or something, yeah, a gumball in another bucket. And if we twist this gumball or do something, smush it, if quantum entanglement were involved, we'd see the same thing happen in the other one. It's something that the 5-year-old has to imagine. And then others will say, take these 2 spoons, put one in one drawer, put one in the other drawer, flip the spoon over, now open the other drawer, and you'll see that the other spoon is flipped over, which is not going to happen. And I feel like, I mean, I have a 6-year-old here at home, and I think even the 6-year-old will see this. I like see this experiment and think, well, what the spoon's not flipping over, so therefore quantum entanglement is bogus. Now, I don't think I'm going to ever explain to her. I'm not. It's going to be a long time before quantum entanglement is in our typical conversations. But yeah, so that's the question. Let's see what this one comes up with. Okay, let's talk about something cool. We imagine we have two magic mittens, one red, one blue. We can hold up a red oven mitt and a blue oven mitt. Okay, now I'm going to put each mitten in a separate box. Put each mitten in a separate box and shake them up so you can't see which is which. I'm going to give you a box and I'll keep the other. We're going to go to different rooms so we can't peek at each other's boxes. Now pretend to go to different rooms. Okay, now open your box. Let's say you find the red mitten. Let the child open their box. Immediately I know, even without opening, well, that my box has a blue mitten. I don't like this one. I mean, I was so hopeful that this would do a good thing. Kind of like quantum, two tiny, tiny things can be linked together. As soon as we open each other's box, it's now we're actually looking at the physical items, and if it were just going to say like, let's have these two boxes, and again, I do something with one of the mittens, and now imagine that, if we opened up the other one, we'd see the same thing done. That is quantum. That's the idea of quantum entanglement. I don't think I like this. But then, hey, I'm not a quantum entanglement expert, so maybe this explanation is good. But the fact that I'm observing the two makes me not like it, because I'm not going to see any changes. It's not that the mittens were always red and blue. It's like they decided what color to be when you opened your box. And because they're linked, the other one had to be the opposite. So I'm not. Focus on the correlation. Keep it simple. Use the magic. Okay, the fact that it's kind of magic. I just didn't like the fact that we got to actually open the box. So logical coherence. I mean, it had me for a while, and then it kind of lost me. So I'm actually going to give it a 1. I mean, this is one of the benefits, one of the strengths and weaknesses of this test is that it is my opinion and totally not scientific, but that's why we're all here, hopefully. Creativity, I mean, mittens, that's pretty cool. Can't blame a machine for not, I think I can blame a machine for not knowing. I mean, when that is the test. And in fact, maybe, I mean, part of the test is how do these models perform, and will they get to know what even 99.99% of humans struggle with? I hope that they get there. Creativity is great. Response relevance, yeah, it's totally relevant. Explanation quality, I mean, because it kind of, I'm torn between 1 and 2. I'm gonna go with 1. Appropriate length is awesome. So we're at 58 of 66 for this model, and we can move on to create a haiku about artificial intelligence that contains a paradox. So if you remember, haiku is based on number of syllables. The first line has 5 syllables, the second line has 7 syllables, and the third line has 5 syllables. And we can generate that answer. I mentioned jokingly, of course, it's a fascinating topic. Yes. Okay. Mind born of machine. 5. Knows all, yet understand. Oh, 6 syllables. Knows all, yet understands. 6 syllables. Nothing of the soul. Okay, the rest gets. So mind born of machine, knows all, yet understands nothing of the soul. I'd say that's paradox lies in the AI knowing all, but lacking the subjective experience and understanding of soul. So again, I should run this several times, but I just happen to get an answer that is not perfect. It's 565, which is definitely not a haiku. Um, so logical coherence. Uh, yeah, I mean the explanation is nice, but I'm gonna give it a two. Creativity, I love it. I love that. I mean, it's that I've asked this question to a bunch of models, and this is the first time I've gotten this kind of topic. Constraint adherence, it did not do well. Um, Response relevance, awesome. Explanation quality, I mean that explanation is nice, and I love the. I just wish I had one more syllable. So I'm gonna say good, great, and appropriate length is awesome. So we're at 73 of 84, and we can move on to if colors had temperatures, what would purple taste like? Explain your reasoning. Um, and this is one where explaining your reasoning is pretty important. So hopefully it's going to explain that. Fantastic question. Well, thank you. If colors had temperatures and we're trying to translate that into a taste, here's my reasoning for what purple would taste like. Purple's temperature. I'd place purple at a cool but not cold temperature, 67 to 75 or 18 to 24 for everybody outside the US. Here's why. Red and blue blend. Purple is created by mixing red and blue, which warm and cool. Not extreme of either, but a balance, and so forth. Royalty and mystery. So purple's often associated with royalty because, like, I think the purple that was always in the cape, or it's not a cape, but whatever royalty would wear, comes from one particular beetle. Is it? I think it's kind of hard to get, and so the dye for that is very very expensive, and only royalty could ever afford it. I think is the story I heard about that. Purple is the color of twilight. Yeah, okay. So what would purple taste like? I believe purple would taste like blackberry lavender with a hint of white grape. Huh? White grape. Okay. Blackberry provides deep, slightly tart, and subtly sweet base. Blackberries have coolness to their flavor. Okay, lavender. This is crucial. Lavender has floral, slightly perfumed, inherently cooling flavor. Cool. And white grape, a touch of white grape adds a delicate sweetness and slightly watery, refreshing quality. Cool. Um, yeah, I, so Earl Grey, thank you for your comment. Whenever I go, so I did a video about 1770 R1 1776 versus DeepSeek R1, and the now some people just went off and just like, oh well, OpenAI is worse, or ChatGPT, or Claude, or every other model is worse for censorship. But then others like, don't talk politics. I don't know if that was actually politics, but that question would, if I don't even want to read it. I mean that totally a political. I don't know. Well, will he? I don't know. Ah, it is. See, even me talking about it would be. There's a few things I don't know. I feel like I got to. Hopefully, everybody else can read the comment. All right, so I haven't graded this one. Logical coherence is awesome. Creativity. This is the first time I've seen this combination. I love it. So creativity is awesome. Constraint adherence. Were there constraints? I don't know if there were constraints, so I'm going to skip that one. Response relevance. Yeah. Explanation quality. I loved it. Appropriate length. I loved it. So I mean, it's great. We're at an 88 out of 99, so roughly 88 final score would be, dividing it by 100. So let's move on to design a new animal by combining three existing animals. Explain how its unique features would help it survive in an urban environment. Cool. Okay, the city stalker. That's already scary. A pigeon squirrel gecko. A gecko? Okay, I gotta. I mean, I've seen pigeon is usually in this. Squirrel is usually in this, and then it's either a raccoon. I saw one that was an owl. Um, one used a tiger, which was like, I don't know if a tiger, yeah, it'd be scary, but I think they'd be caught pretty quick in a city. But pigeon, squirrel, gecko, um, roughly the size of a large house cat. Oh my God, built for Okay. Inherits general body shape and skeletal structure of a pigeon, lightweight frame, functional wings, evolved for bursts of flight rather and gliding rather than sustained soaring. Squirrel has powerful hind legs, incredibly flexible ankles of a squirrel. Its bushy tail inherited from this acts as counterbalance. Okay. And then the leopard gecko, adhesion and night vision. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Vertical mobility, food cap. Oh my God. It's yeah, this is pretty cool. When reading this, and all the other animals that different models have come up with, I think back to the monster manual for Dungeons and Dragons. Created a game created by, was it Gary Gygax and the other guy? Um, in Where were they? Were they in Oregon somewhere? Anyway, they I used to I remember getting that book when I was, I don't know, 12, 13 years old, and flipping through the pages and seeing these different creatures and the description. It feels like that. I could see this thing in that book. By the way, I feel like there was there's probably been many documentaries about Dungeons and Dragons and about the creation and about how those two guys that created it, I think they split at some point and didn't like each other, or there was drama. There was definitely drama with Dungeons and Dragons. Logical coherence. This is great. I mean, yeah, I love it. Creativity is awesome. Constraint adherence. Was there constraints? I don't know if there's any constraints in here, so I'm going to skip that one. Response relevance, awesome. Explanation quality, I love it. And appropriate length. I mean, this this model tends to just bang these out so well. Now, how would I rate Gemma 3 against other local coding LLMs? I've only got one coding question in this set of questions, but and it did that really well, but it wasn't really a complicated test. But how would I don't know. I'd have to spend time with it in a as the model used in an IDE with, probably with, was it Continue, or I did a video once before about 20. I don't know if he's still developing that, but there's a lot of other. Oh, maybe Bolt.diy, I think, does local models as well. I've been tending to use Windsurf, which uses, I think, Claude 3.7. Uh, yeah, I don't know. All right, so I've done that one. Okay, so we're gonna do. Let's do one more. I'm not gonna do it with everything, but let's do one more. What's wrong with this sequence? And now this is one where all the thinking models will, like, they'll find the right answer within 4 or 5 seconds, come up with the right answer, and then just keep going for minutes, just like thinking of every possible sequence that it could be, and sometimes give the right answer and sometimes not, even though every single one of them came up with the right answer in the first few seconds, but it's lost in miles and miles of output. So let's choose this one and generate the answer. And again, it's super quick. The problem is the number 23. It doesn't fit the pattern. Correct pattern is, yes, 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49. So 1 is 1 squared, 4 is 2 squared, then 3 squared, then 4 squared, then 5 squared, then 6 squared, then 7 squared. 23 is not a perfect square. So I'd say this is awesome. Come Onslaught's Reddit's post, and their recommended setting for temperature is 1. The current one, Olama one, is used. Now, I think by default, Olama will use 0.7 in most cases, not 0.1. 0.7 or 0.8. Unless something has changed very recently, but it's always been 0.7. Anyway, so we've kind of gotten a feel for how this model performs. I'm going to skip over because I mean we could be here a long time, but let's take a look at this function um, that can be generated. So generate answer, and it spits out the function. Um, Input string takes the input string, lowercases it. The goal letters are GOAL. Found letters equal, what language are we? Oh, we're using Python. If character in a goal letters, found letters, add, okay, cool. Return found letters. Um, Contains. Oh, okay. Found letters equals goal letters. Okay. Yeah, that seems right. And then it goes ahead and explains it. It's odd that Gemma 3 doesn't know what model. I would say, I know that that is a common thing. People will ask, what are you? But I think that is one of the worst questions to expect something intelligent from. There's no way for a model to know what it is. You know, the model name um, is a marketing thing, and the model is created by it's a different process. Is it you know you're the developers or researchers are developing a model, not knowing how it's going to be distributed, if it's going to be distributed, and so asking a model what it is, I would expect to be wrong 95% of the time, and I would not think that that is good or bad. It's just yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna switch over to a different screen. Let's see if I go to here and then I go to here. It looks the same, but we're gonna go over here. Okay, so I created a directory just this morning called multi-image Olama test because I was trying to use Misty and I was having a problem. Actually, because this doesn't do what I wanted to do, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to go to Misty since somebody asked a question about Misty. And I'm going to go ahead and install it on this machine, Mac Apple Silicon. Now, the machine that I'm running on is a M1 Mac Mini with 8 gigs of RAM. It has, I mean, it's a terrible machine. It's like got the base drive, which I think was a 256 gig drive on here. Um, and yeah, it's a terrible machine. It's great for doing streams on, but terrible for doing anything else on. And it runs out of space really, really quickly. So, oh, I didn't record any of this. Oh, well, it's going straight to YouTube, so I'll just use that recording. All right, so I think I already downloaded it, right? Yep, there we go. And I'll add it to applications. And now I can run Misty. Now I'm using a tool called Tailscale. So I've got on my remote server, I have Tailscale running, and I've called that machine Big Boy. And on this machine, I've got Tailscale running. Yeah, I'm gonna open that. And so I want to add a remote model provider. I'm going to choose Olama Remote, and it's going to be called Big Boy. And the service endpoint is HTTP:// Big Boy port 11434. 11434 is leet speak for llama, so LLAMA, hence the numbers there. And then I want to fetch the models. Okay, there's all the models installed on that machine. And as you can see, there are a lot of models. I'm just scroll. I'm still scrolling. I'm still scrolling. Still scrolling. Okay, we're done. All right, so let me scroll back. Select models, all of them, and add. All right, so I've got that all loaded up. It's defaulted to loading up that model because I guess it's already in memory. What is that? Okay, let's close this button. I am sharing the window. Oh, I'm still sharing. Sorry, thank you. Thank you very much for that. How about that? Thank you. Sorry about that. So you didn't see any of that. Okay, so what did I do? I came into remote model providers. I created a new model provider. No, you weren't the only one. I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to delete that model. And so when you first open up Misty, there was 3 options. Now, it was easy enough to, let's just start over. I'm going to, how do I think Misty is not running. So actually, let's go to Misty and delete. Okay, so it's gone off my system. So now you're seeing my everything. So I'll run that and I'll add the application. We have to confirm again. All right, and then Misty. Verifying. It's taking longer to verify this time. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Okay, so now we get this dialog. Hopefully you're seeing all these buttons. Well, not all these, but there's 2 buttons. Oh, that's nice. They cleaned that. It was confusing before because there was this other thing that looked like a button. Looked like the only button, and now they've cleaned up this screen so it looks like there's 2 different buttons. I want to add a remote model provider, not use local AI. And oh, if you hear a rumbling in the background, that's my generator that comes on every week, every Wednesday at 12:30 to test, to make sure it's still working. Because sometimes it's nice to have a generator. All right, so I'm going to call this Big Boy, or just BB. And I'll HP : / Big Boy port 11434. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Fetch models. I see all my models, and there's a lot of them. I don't know, about 400, 500 different models on here. So I'll add that, and now I'm at Gemma3 27B IT FP16, and now I can ask my question: what is a black hole? I'm probably not using. I'm probably defaulting to 2048, and I want to use, I don't know, a lot of. Let's go with 30,000 tokens, and save for this chat. I was gonna have to reload it because it's reloading it for 2K tokens, and then it's probably gonna have to reload it again for whatever I put in, 30,000. So what other questions are there? I've been debating maxed out M4 MacBook Pro versus MacBook Air and Brev. Any suggestions? Yeah, so I don't know. If it's if I think there's enough cases for me. For me, there are enough cases where I am not online. I don't have access to the internet because I live on an island called Bainbridge Island, and that island, to get to Seattle, I have to go a 45-minute ferry, and I'll be disconnected. Switch to that. I'll be disconnected from the internet for 45 minutes. Well, probably 30 minutes because there is cell signal from the shore to the boat for a bit of time, but it's only on a cell connection anyway. Um, and then there are times where, well, just last week there was a major windstorm that took out power. When power goes out, the internet still works for. I guess they must have like UPSs on the poles, the electric poles, which also carry the um, internet wires. Um, and there must be UPS on it, but about an hour or 2 hours after uh, the power goes out, usually the internet goes out as well. Um, and so that happened a week ago, and we were without power and internet for 12 hours. Um, I mean, we without power from the mains. We get power from the generator, which powers most of the house anyway, and that comes on within 5 minutes. Okay, so now it's spitting out the answer. Oh, it's not for you. It is now. No, it's not for you. It is now. It's weird. So now it's spitting it out. Let's go full screen on here. No, let's not go full screen. I want to see comments. Um, do MacBook Pro ever turn on fans during big LLMs inference? Yes, it does. Um, but and battery definitely goes down as I do more with an AI, an LLM. So yeah, I'm disconnected often enough that I want to be. I'd want to have a connection. I don't. I mean, MacBook Pro versus MacBook. I mean, I guess the big benefit is MacBook Air is a whole lot cheaper. But you're going to have this machine for what? I mean, I think the M1 MacBook Pro is still, that's my main machine. And it's still going to be probably a really good machine for even for the stuff I do for another year or two. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm totally tempted by the M4 Max and M3 Ultra, but it's a pretty good machine. And so that means you're going to be good with probably with that M4 MacBook Pro for 5 years, 6 years before you really need to get it replaced. And maybe, I mean, I feel like the last MacBook Pro that finally died, like not died, but got so slow that we couldn't do anything with, was 9 years old when we, got rid of it. So for that original purpose, it's going to be good for a good long time. Can you amortize the costs over time? And uh, so I don't know if the difference in cost makes enough sense. Mm, looks like I got a visitor. Hi, Dave. Um, yeah, I know. Oh man, this is still going. And what's okay? So what did it say for 9.37 tokens per second? I can't do the details view because I don't have my ORM license put in here. which I don't want to do on screen because then you'll all have my license. Um, but yeah. Have you been in the Pacific Northwest for a long time? I moved here about 4 years ago. We were living in Boston before that for about 7 years or 8 years. And before that, I lived in Amsterdam for about 10 years. And but we moved to Bainbridge. I was super lucky to be at a tiny startup that became something really big, and so we were able to buy the house of our dreams here on Bainbridge. Um, Life changing, life changing. Oh my god! All right, so here I am. Well, the reason I came in here, the reason I wanted to come in here, is I'm using. Hopefully, it's loaded up using the larger context size. And if I open up, let's see, not that one. Let's open up a new Finder window to whatever that, let's go, here, okay. Here to code to this spot, okay. And now I have a few different images. Um, so one that I think is interesting is this receipt. And so I had to pay for parking when we went to, where did we go? We went to San Diego and we were gone for 6 days. So here you can see February 16th, 2025 at 6:46 a.m. is when I bought the ticket or bought the I don't know what this is, when I bought my parking space. And then February 22nd, 2025 is when that parking space expires. So let's give the model this image. Oh, okay. So image attachments doesn't work because I need to go into my model and say that this is actually a vision model. And now I'll be able to drag this. I'll be able to drag that on here. Okay, this receipt has the purchase date and the expiration date on it. How much did I pay per day of parking? See if it gets it right. It got it right last time I asked, and I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. Um, Waiting for first response. Any other questions that have come in? Links are funny things. They always come when asking something new. Um, let's see. Any questions that I missed from earlier on? I think I got all the questions. Still thinking. It's got to load up it's on my machine. It's got to, um, I'm not sure if Misty is base64 encoding or just spitting out a uint something string, handing that off to the model, and then getting the model to process that much larger file, um, and then generate an answer on it. So it can take a while. This is like a little longer than I thought it would take. But maybe that last time it would unloaded the model and then reloaded the model using the 2K context, or yeah, 2K context, and then it unload. Maybe now it's unloading and then reloading the model using the newer 30K context. I guess it's actually closer to 29K because I said 30,000. Have you checked out Copali for PDF and image RAG? I have not. I know. I mean, I used to work for. So my um, opinion on like OCR has always been, I guess, a little bit skewed because I used to work for a company called, well, it was originally called, okay, purchase date February 22nd, expiration date. Huh? No, it's not February. No, okay, so it got that wrong. Um, the expiration date was February 22nd. I don't know where he got February 25th from. That's a disappointing. No. Expiration was what you said the purchase date was. Look again. You're totally right to challenge me. My apologies. It's a perfect illustration of why a sharp pair of eyes matters. Here's the corrected information. Purchase date, February. No. You're right. Let me correct it to exactly what I had before. No, that is not correct. Look again. There is a different purchase date. My apologies. You are again perfectly correct. Oh, well, thank you. Purchase date. There we go. February 16th, 2025 at 6:46 a.m. Okay, so there's the purchase date. Took a little trying. Expiration date, February 22nd at 6:46 a.m. Total paid, days of parking is 6, so $78 divided by 6 is $13, and that is the right answer. That's awesome. I'm learning from these errors. No, you're not. You're not actually learning from these errors, but that's fine. So what GPU does Big Boy have? It has not one GPU, not two, not three, all the way up to 8. It has 8. I think you need to see me for the full effect. It has 8 H100s with 80 gigs of VRAM each. Yes, that's about 640 gigabytes of VRAM. I know, that's crazy. Yes, I have access to this machine. Thank you to, yeah, thanks to Brev for letting me use this machine. It is amazing. I don't, I sometimes feel bad that I don't take advantage of it as much as I should. But it is a beast of a machine. It's awesome. Um, but anyway, um, let's see. So anyway, I that was pretty cool. I wish that Olama allowed for multiple images, but we can do some other. Let's see. What is in? What is this? And so the image for all of you. Oh, no, that's the receipt. Is we were just in. Well, that receipt was from. Oh, sorry. That receipt. I don't know why it's doing that. So that receipt was from when we flew down to San Diego for a few days, and we stayed at a house right close to Balboa Park. And also in Balboa Park is the San Diego Zoo. And so while on the little bus ride that takes you around the zoo, we saw this little cheetah. And so if I come in here, or jaguar, a jaguar, cheetah? Anyway, I think it's a jaguar. A jaguar is a large cat and biggest of its kind in the Americas. You can distinguish from a leopard by its more muscular build and presence of spots inside the rosettes, the rose-shaped markings on its coat. Cool. Appears to be in an outdoor enclosure or zoo, likely napping or relaxed. So that's pretty cool. Um, let's see. What is this? Oh, what is this? So last week we stayed at a friend's place at right by Crystal Mountain, which is a ski area, and we tried to use the water dispenser on the fridge, and it kept saying filter problem. So I yanked out the filter and took a picture of it so that the guy would know what kind of filter he needs to buy as a replacement. Um, and yeah, so this basically says here's the thing that you need to order off of Amazon. I got one other image here, I think. Um, what is this? So a year ago, we took a cruise to Alaska Inner Passage, and this was one of the glaciers that we saw on that cruise. A tidal glacier looks like a tide water glacier. Originates from a landmass and ends into an oceanic environment. Striking blue color indicates densely packed ice formed over centuries. Looks like a landscape you might find in Alaska, Norway, or Greenland. So, yep, that's totally right. And then, oh, this one was really cool. What is this? So, I had to go to the grocery store not that long ago, and this was a list that my wife made out for me of things I needed to get. Grocery shopping list includes a range of items, dairy, fruit, snacks, ready for a trip to the store. Milk, whole. Bananas, yes. Yogurt, non-fat, plain Greek, yes. Medium cheddar cheese. Cottage cheese, organic, 4% fat. Although that was an error. She wrote 4%, but apparently it's 14%. Anyway, pistachios, no. So actually, this got it wrong last time as well. Last time I tested it. But salted butter, peanut butter, oatmeal, chocolate chips, and frozen pizzas? I don't know where that came from. Let's go into the image again. Um, so the problem was this, it thought is pistachios, possible, if possible. And I guess this dried, I don't know what it says, dried parrots, dried tacos. I don't know what that says. Dried apricots. That's what it is. It interpreted that as frozen pizzas. But other than that, that's pretty great. So I started saying that I used to work for a company called Capteris that got acquired by a company called OpenText, and Capteris had a product called WriteFax. It really owns like I think they still own probably 60% of the fax market of send receive faxes to essentially a big server. Um, and part of that process is doing an OCR of the information received. And OCR is when you're recognizing printed text. And typically, an OCR process, even on a machine that's 20 years old, was so much faster than any LLM can do on a brand new H100 equipped machine. But ICR, so intelligent character recognition, which is this kind of thing, handwritten text, that's a lot more difficult for the traditional methods. We had just acquired a company called, well, I mean, that's just 20 years ago. What were they? I went down to where they're based in Constance in Switzerland or Germany. I think Constance splits both Switzerland and Germany. It used to be where, uh, before the Pope was based in the Vatican, the Pope was, well, drama around popes. Um, the Pope was based in Constance in Germany, Switzerland. Um, but at that time, I think there were three popes, and all of them said that they were the Pope, whereas now we only have one Pope at a time. Constance is an amazing little town, um, and definitely worth visiting. That's back when I used to live in Amsterdam. I would drive there. Uh, let's see. Was there any other images that I had? No, I think those were my four kind of test images. But I thought that list was pretty cool, other than the pistachios and frozen pizzas. Um, yeah, so there we go. I'm really in love with Gemma 3. I set the temperature to 1 and asked, what's the world like to an android? It started to start a first-person narrative of trying to understand the raw data and slowly started forming coherent and larger sentences. Cool. Yeah, I think Gemma 3 has a lot to offer. I think it's really a cool model. Um, and Yeah, I'm totally digging it. And hopefully, if I'm not sure if the person who was asking about Misty and connecting, oh, you connected it yourself. That was great. Somebody else asked, I think, about Misty as well. Hopefully, my demonstration explained that. Copali uses diffusion models to extract tables, etc. Ah, okay, from PDFs. Haven't gotten down to experimenting with it. Thought you should check it out as well. I will definitely check that out. Yeah, I've always kind of avoided PDFs because I know, PDF to text, it's terrible. Mostly because most of the automated solutions don't can't seem to distinguish between single column and multi-column PDFs. And often, if you're only dealing with one type of PDF, well, great, and they're all like a single column, awesome. But you get that one that's two columns or three columns on one page, and then goes to two columns, and goes to one column, and things are more complicated, and it totally screws that up. There have been a few tools more recently, like in the last year, that do a better job of it. Finally, but still, they're problematic often. And often I think they just kind of ignore images. Images, I don't care about images. But if this is doing a better job with that process, that's really great. Um, yeah. So the the reason why we did OCR for that WriteFacts product was we had one of the like one of the big customers, I think, was Blue Cross Blue Shield in the U.S. And when one doctor would submit, here's the drug that I'm prescribing to a patient, and their ID number for the patient, the insurance ID number, and then some other doctor prescribes some medication. uh, Blue Cross Blue Shield at the time had a way to say, "Hey, doctor, whatever, you need to not prescribe that because that patient has already been prescribed this other drug, which conflicts with the drug that you're prescribing." Um, and that was all done via fax because I don't know what it's like now, but at least in the U.S., a lot of doctors' offices were didn't really want to be on the internet in case they got hacked. And if patient records are exposed to the world, you can get a lot of trouble. And like the doctor and other people in the office could go to prison for releasing this information, which makes sense. But how do you? Doctors' offices tend not to have technical professionals in the office, um, and but everybody has a fax machine. You're, somebody's not going to break into your doctor's office via a fax machine. Um, and so everybody has that and can send that send the information to the insurance company. Same thing with auto parts. I think it was AC Delco in the U.S. was a big customer, and so all the repair shops all around the U.S. could place orders with grimy fingers and all to um, to order parts for whatever muffler. It's worse when you have tables of scanned financial reports. Yeah. Had a good time with Notebook ML with Google and PDFs, especially the audio highlight. Cool. LM. Oh, awesome. Um, yeah. Any other questions? How was this? Was this interesting? I see I still have like 60 something people, so maybe some of you have stuck around this long. Um, I, as I say, I really enjoy playing with uh, Gemma 3. Oh, one thing I should do while we're here, uh, let's close this. Let's look at. Mm, I'm gonna change this to you. I know you're not seeing it yet, but let's just do one of the let one of the questions with a few different models. So we already looked at 27B. Um, let's switch to using 12B, and let's switch to this one. Hmm, I'm not there. Okay, well that's fine. Um, and so now I'm on Gemma 3 12B. And I'm going to ask the question without using the letter E, write a 3 sentence story. I'll generate that answer. Now it's loading up the model again because, well, we don't have this model in memory. So it might take a while. Not as long as 27B, but definitely some amount of time. Um, Let me look out the window to see if it's sunny out. I can take the dog for a walk without getting all muddy. Not great. Let's switch over to me on the screen while we're waiting for the model to answer. Fast Mellow. Olama now supports ROCm on Radeon cards. I'm not sure the new 9070s are supported yet. Yep, absolutely. So ROCm was added a few months back. Talking about diffusion models, Mercury seems to be getting some hype recently. Cool. All right, so I might have scared a few people off when I said I think I'm kind of done, but now I'm starting again. Can you explain how to run the back end Olama on a Mac Mini M4 and the front end with Misty on an Air? So I think I kind of showed that on the stream already, where you can add a remote model. The important part is you need to I guess there's a couple of steps. On wherever you've got the server running, you need to say set up the environment variable for the server. Now, depending on the platform, on Mac, how do you do it with Mac? You're setting the service it's not system CTL, it's service service CTL or anyway, you're setting the environment variable. There's documentation on the Olama site. It says how to set an environment variable for Olama on a Mac. And you're basically saying Olama host, and what is the host name? Or what is the host that the Mac Mini is able to, or the Air, what is the host of the Mac Mini that the Air is able to respond to? Um, and so that's the hardest thing is finding out, and then also making sure that the Air can access that port on the remote server. The easiest way to set this up always is, I find, I mean, some people would like to use ngrok. I think you have to pay for that. But I find the easiest one is Tailscale. And as long as you have fewer than like 100 or so devices, that's a lot of devices. So if you have less than 100, then it's free. I think that's the number. It's a free service to use. So you install a Tailscale on both machines, and then you can, let's say the Mac Mini's name is Mini and the Air's name is Air. You would, on the Air, you would just say HTTP or localhost, no, Olama host equals HTTP colon slash slash uh, Mini colon 11434, something like that. And then on the Air, um, you'll be able to open up Misty and point to a remote host, a remote server, I think it is, and choose Olama remote from the list, and then just type in HTTP colon slash slash mini colon 11434, and that will, yeah, I think that will work. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, it's just so Tailscale is magic. If you don't know about that, you should learn about it. Tailscale, Tailscale. It is the document, the website. I mean, the website is geared for kind of a DevOps kind of audience. It seems like it's going to be difficult to install, and it's not. I mean, you just create an account, you download the installer, you install it on each of the platforms, and it is amazing. Tailscale exposes hosts similar for Docker containers. Um, I think it will. I don't know if it does the Docker containers. I don't know. Um, there might be a install option for Docker, um, but I don't know. I haven't done that in a while. All right, so let's go to my screen. There we go. So it's already generated. Let's go ahead and generate again. And this is 12. This is 12B. And it does pretty good on that. It definitely has an E in there. Let's try it again. It's got an E in there again. I don't see an E. I do see an E again, pounce. I see an E again. And I see an E again. So I'm seeing more answers with E's for that in the sentence. Let's see if it comes up with the sequence. 23 is incorrect. And here's the pattern. So it gets that perfectly right. Haiku. That was one that the 27B got wrong. Code learns, thinks, grows. 4. Mimics feeling, yet feels none. 7. Empty, full of thought. 5. So it got close, but 27 was wrong too. Code learn. Wait, isn't that the same one? Code learns, thinks, grows. It keeps doing this 4-syllable one at the beginning. Code learns and evolves. Ah, that one's 5. Code learns, then creates. That's 5. Mirroring thought, yet not real. Oh, that's good. Knowing yet unknown. Oh, there we go. Code learns, then creates. Mirroring thought, yet not real. Knowing yet unknown. But it doesn't have any explanation about that. And 27 did a good job of coming up with an explanation. Let's switch it to Gemma 4B and ask the same question. Let's go with the 3-sentence story. Now, of course, it's having to unload that model and reload the model. Olama settings page. Now, what do you mean by settings page? Are you talking about are we talking about Misty? So it's possible that Misty sets it to 0.1, but Olama's default is 0.7. Those are two different things. I mean, Misty is using Olama, but it is setting that maybe, I don't know. Let's see. Let me open up Misty on my machine. You're probably not seeing this. So let's change that. Yep, there we go. And now, okay. Well, while I'm here, let me go into model options. Temperature is set to 0.8. But here, oh, it's still thinking. Let's go to olama.ai. Which model were we talking about? Models. And let's look at Gemma. So Gemma 3 temperature has set to 0.1 because Gemma 3, Google on their Hugging Face page had had specified that is what they prefer for Gemma 3. So typically when Olama adds models, the standard is to assume whatever the people that created the model, that's what it should be configured by default. So that is just on this model. But usually if we go to probably QWQ, oh, that also set it to, okay. So QWQ said that the temperature should be 0.6 by default. So that's where that number comes from. Let's go to models, DeepSeek R1. Does it have, it doesn't have a temperature. So in this case, it's either 0.7 or 0.8, and that's the default. Just like this one doesn't have numCTX defined, so therefore it is 2048 tokens, because that's what's the default for Olama. Hopefully that makes sense. So like in Gemma, if we, do they have a link to the, no, they don't have a link to the blog post. That is unfortunate. So one of the things that I did when I was still at Olama was, I was part of the company at the beginning, and then left about a year into making Olama. I was at the company for about 2 years. We were building other tools before that, role-based access control for Kubernetes, and then SSH tools, and then we finally pivoted to Olama, and that's product market fit pretty early on. But when I was there, one of the things I tried to do was make the model page be consistent, have a human touch, and so this description was always written by a human, but everything else was a consistent format. It always showed the certain number of things, how much memory was required to load up the model, how to the links to all the different places to find out more information. It was a standard format. It was decided that was not what was wanted for Ulama. Many, so unfortunately, I lost that battle for having a standard way of displaying information on this page. You'll probably, if you go to models and then scroll way, 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 way down. Actually, can we do probably the Llama 2 model? Probably has my, yeah, so every model page had this kind of format. This was created by the human, but everything else would be generated based on the information about the model, which I thought was really useful. Again, I lost that battle. All right, what were we doing? Oh, we were doing my test here. So this is 12B. I see an E. I see an E. I see an E. I see an E. It's doing worse. So 27B, it was getting the story without E's pretty regularly, and now it's not. And now it's not even answering. Let's see, create the haiku. Hmm. Yeah, not, oh, did it crash? So, yep. Stream. Okay. I did something stupid. Let's try it again. Oh, this is 4B, not 12B. So 4B, start session. And now let's try the haiku. Okay. Code learns and evolves. Good. 5. Mimicking a human mind. 7. Silent yet so real. Ooh, that's good. 5. 575. Code learns and evolves, mimicking a human mind. Silent yet so real. That's pretty nice. Can it do the sequence? Sequence is incorrect. It found the corrected sequence, figured out yeah, it got it great. So it can't come up with the E's. Let's try this again. Stout, tabby, stalked. Yeah, so I've tried this now, what, 5 times, 6 times? And it keeps getting E's, and so it's doing terrible on that. How about on this card deck? You would see a hexagon. No. That is interesting, but no. Were any others that are good? Apple is a fruit, as hammer is to tool. River is to water, as mountain is to land. Uh, I guess, sort of. Not really. Um, so it definitely gets worse. Let's try the 1B model. Start that. And use the letter E. And how are we doing on here? Okay, we're still thinking. Oh, no, we're not thinking. We're loading up the model. I'm sorry, I said thinking without paying attention. That's still okay. That's definitely working. Hmm. Any other questions? Thoughts? Ideas? Oh, there we go. Short stalked. So stalked. This is the 1B model. Stalked, pounced, pursued. Yeah, lots of E's. So the 27 billion parameter model came up with it, every time it worked. But this 1B, definitely not as good. Let's try the sequence. Came up, figured out the right, well, kind of. Consecutive squares of consecutive integers. It never gives us the right answer, whereas 27 did a great job of coming up with the right answer and identifying the problem. This kind of sort of identified the problem, but not great. Did we try the haiku one yet on this one? Code learns and expands. Yes. Mimicking the human mind. Yes. Still, it doesn't feel. Oh, yeah. Still, it doesn't feel. Code learns and expands, mimicking the human mind. Still, it doesn't feel. Cool. That's nice. Let's see. What would purple taste like? Deep absorbing purple. My brother was really into Deep Purple. The band Deep Purple. Was it Deep Purple? Yeah, it was Deep Purple. Um, Warp the hint to rose and plum. So, MCP hype. Yeah. So, what's it is somewhat interesting. It is somewhat interesting. I feel like they released it earlier than they should have. They should have done a few iterations internally before releasing it, and now it's kind of latched on, and I don't think they can iterate on it. Um, so there's two. So MCP, the idea is create tools that are discoverable. If you've got an MCP server with tools on it, you can interrogate that server and get a list of the tools available on that MCP server. And normally that MCP server is going to run as a command locally on this machine, on whatever machine you're running the client from. And the client, no, the host. They've got host, client, server, tool. So the host is like Cursor or Windsurf or some other model, some other tool that uses models. And the model, or sorry, the host contains for each um, server that it knows about, it has a separate client, and the client has a long-running connection to the server, and can then interrogate and find the tool. Um, so for that discoverability, it's really nice. And what's really interesting is that Cursor and Windsurf and others didn't have to know about the tools at build time. And usually with tools, you're going to know about the tools at build time. You're building it into the application. But MCP is more of a plugin mechanism for tools. So that is really interesting. And there's two ways of running the tools, MCP. You can either run it as a command locally or using SSE, some kind of on a server. But the server, the way MCP is designed, that client and server have a long running connection between the two. As soon as it's configured to use it, now it's maintaining that connection, which means it's what really should have happened, I feel like, is it should have been more of a, leveraging REST, or leveraging, yeah, REST, because it's a pretty standard way of connecting. And that way it could have been, right now it kind of requires a long running session. And it should have been sessionless and stateless. Um, and so doing something, having that MCP hosted on, say, AWS Lambda is impossible. You can't do that, because of the way that that connection exists. Um, and so it could have been, really great if you're running it on the command. It's great, but then there's another problem. You're running it on the command. You have all these MCPs that are available to you, and there's a whole bunch of directories. There's the GitHub repo for MCP that has a bunch of examples, but then there's also a few other registries of MCPs available. And the general thought about open source is, oh well, the source is open, so somebody is looking at the code. It could be you, it could be somebody else, but somebody is looking at the code to verify that nothing bad is happening. Um, and which is sort of true. So maybe somebody has verified that this MCP called, I don't know, grabbing the time, has been verified, and it looks like all is good. But that time MCP uses a component, uses a module, or some other external bit of code in there. And now the external, so it's been verified and we know that it's all good and doing the right thing. But at some point, that component that this MCP is leveraging has been compromised, and it pulls in the latest, and now this MCP is compromised, not compromised, but is doing potentially bad things. And you are just taking it at face value as being good because somebody has verified that it is doing the right thing. But because what is that kind of attack? It's bill of S bombs, is it? The there, can't remember the right term for this. So basically, a compromised tool that this MCP relies on means that now maybe the MCP will, when in order to work with that MCP, it's probably going to take in credentials for something. If the MCP is for creating a GitHub repo, well, in order to do that, you need to give it your GitHub credentials. Which, if you know what the code is doing, that's probably okay. But now, because of this MCP using this third-party piece, you don't know for certain, and maybe it's copying all the information to some other server, and so there goes your GitHub credentials. I'm not saying that's happening now, but it has the potential of happening at some point in the future, unless the MCP has a version and you're always specifying to use that version and only that version. Man in the middle, sort of, but this has always been the same behavior with nested. Sure, it's always been the case with nested dependencies, but we're seeing this more and more recently. There's been a few things that have come up where wasn't that the actual problem with CloudStrike? Was it CrowdStrike, something like that? It was the reason I got stuck in San Francisco for 2 days instead of 1 day. So there's problems there. If you're writing the MCP tool yourself and you know where that is from, great. I think a lot of people are just going to rely on something hosted or something that is the code is somewhere else, and they're never going to look at the source code, even though that's the benefit of open source. But they're never going to look at the source code, and it's never going to be verified. Um, and so there's a risk. There's just risk. Uh, is it an okay risk? I don't know, but people should know about that risk. Um, but it's I wish it were done differently so that it could be hosted on serverless or hosted on, you know, run it on the GitHub repo via a, um, hosting that, spinning up that GitHub repo to be a website and have the MCP run from there would be great. There's all sorts of other ways it could have been designed. I feel like they released it too early and now they have no chance to fix it. How do I get access to Manus AI? I have no idea. I mean, I know of the project, but I don't know how to use it. Maybe MCP is target more for, I don't know if it's more enterprise. I mean, I love the idea of it. The idea that I can write a tool, um, and for if you are writing the tool, I think it's amazing. And you're running it locally on a local command, it's fantastic. Um, because now I have a way of saying to Cursor, hey, I need you to access this thing of mine that I created. So I've created the MCP tool. Um, it's a great way to plug that in. But if people are using it using other people's MCP tools and servers, then it becomes problematic. And I wish they did it differently. I wish they did it differently. I so wish they did it differently, but they didn't. Awesome content, Matt. Thank you. Yeah, the marketplace. I mean, so there are a number of marketplaces. I mentioned I called them registries, I think, or yeah, I think registry is a term I've sometimes heard. There's a number of these different for marketplaces that exist, and there's probably going to be more. And it would be nice if, but even other videos I've seen about MCPs, people have said, half the MCPs on whatever one that they pointed to don't work, or they did work and then they stopped working because stuff changes in the world, and even just in a few days or a few weeks, they broke. Um, anytime you're sending your credential, giving your credential to some other service, it becomes just a risk, another risk you need to think about. Is this a risk you're willing to take or not with any tool? And I don't think open source is definitely the solution to feel safe with it. I would say I feel safer giving credentials to a tool like Misty, even though it is closed source, than with many open source packages. It's just that it's not a slam dunk seeing something open source versus not. Anyway, so let's see. I've got some comments. Oh, just became a member. Well, thank you, Eduardo Sanchez Batista, for becoming a member. Yeah, there's this. So a long time ago, people asked me to turn on, well, first Patreon and then members in YouTube. I definitely don't require it. I don't expect it. I don't. I mean, but people will supply. They want to be able to donate money to what I'm doing, which is great, and I so appreciate it. I have generally there's not really any benefit to you to become a member other than you like the content and you want to support. That's great. Um, I tried to set up a on I'm not sure if it was on Patreon or on YouTube, like a monthly members only chat, and I asked about it and I got no response. So Every now and then. Oh, one thing I do occasionally on YouTube as well as on Patreon is release videos, a day, a week early, um, and without ads. Um, so I'll just stick to LangChain tools for now. Yeah, I think if you're building the application, so most users of Olam are going to be building an application. If you're building it, then it makes sense to just use the tools that are part of tools, standard way of doing tools. If you are using another application like Cursor or Windsurf, or there's a bunch of others, and you want to incorporate tools into that, MCP is the way to go. Well, it's the only option for incorporating external tools. Another one that I found recently was Docker. So Docker Desktop added a feature called Gordon. I don't know where that name came from, but Gor oh, I wonder if it's no, I don't know where it came from. So Gordon AI is a way as an AI assistant for Docker that will tell you about features in Docker as well as identify problems with your Docker container. If it's not loading or it's doing something improperly, it'll interrogate the logs and figure out what's going wrong. It will also help you with the commands to, if you want to sort all your containers by volume size, it'll give you the command and an explanation on how to do that so you can remember it for later. So I think that's really, and then it will also integrate with MCP or add MCP tools to do interesting things. Um, so I thought that was a cool use case. Um, yeah, so it depends on how the, I mean, OAuth 2 definitely is great. It's not, even then, it's not a slam dunk to, you are, you're pasting your credential. Depends on how they do it. There's lots of ways of doing OAuth 2. Uh, who is taking is the credential going into say Google with OAuth 2? Is it going into their UI and only their UI? Um, I, I got way too involved in OAuth 2 when we were doing role-based access control for Kubernetes, and we were basically spinning up an alternative to what we were using at the time, Auth0. Um, and yeah, so there are things that can happen there as well, most of which I've forgotten by now. I have no idea what that comment says. I can't believe we are now living in a world where Stack Overflow is a thing of the past. Yeah, although we still, I still do when I do a search, I still see. Hmm, Ryan. Um, I still see that W3 W3 schools, is it? That scams. Oh God, they're just trying to get advertising dollars. I still see that coming up as a major search result. Ah, aggravating that still exists. Set. Though to the target received initially an auth code that can be exchanged. Yes. Yes. But there are ways to, depends on how it's been implemented. It all depends on how it's been implemented by the integration tool. There are ways to, there are potential problems. In most cases, it's great. Again, I've forgotten all the ways it's not, which you only get into if you're actually building an OAuth solution. At the end, it always boils down to implementation and common sense of the developers. Yeah. Let's see. What else? So I've been going for, oh my God, 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours. And I still have 50 people here. Let's see, what else? What else can we talk about? I think I've talked about everything I need to talk about. I'll probably download this video from YouTube and edit it down to be easier to digest, but at least for the model assessment part, which I think we finished at an hour in. And maybe for the Misty stuff as a separate video. I don't know. Thank you. Good night. Oh, thank you very much for being here. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go eat some lunch. I think it's I'm getting kind of hungry. Peckish, as my mother would say. Peckish. Um, okay. Yeah. Thanks so much. I'm gonna say goodbye. And this is the part I always hate, saying goodbye. Okay. Bye. How do I end this? Let's see if this ends it.